in the next 40 plus minutes, if I can give you a little bit of the work that I've done to help get you some of that freedom in your business and just do some things with your database that maybe you haven't thought about, I would just love to do that for you. So I hope to give you a lot of value in the next 45 minutes. So we got a spectrum of new to business to decades in the business. I took take off the business and then have come back. Give me an idea if you've heard our main core training before on the 60 touch blueprint. Put in the chat just a yes if you've ever heard our core training. Matt Harris, yes. Ben, yes. Katie, yes. John, no. Sheena, no. Terry, yes. Just rewatched this week. Caroline, yes. Debbie, no. All right. So we got a good cross section of people. Some have heard our core training and some have not. Perfect. Do you have a database of documented people that you know, like, and trust? You have their phone number, a mailing address that's good, an email address that's good, and you're touching in with them with some level of consistency, even if it's once a month or twice a month, but you have information on a database and you're touching in with them with some level of consistency. Give me a yes if you're doing that, and a no if you're not. Okay, we got a good many yeses with consistency. I love it. Couple no's. Appreciate the honesty. Somewhat, Sheena says. Perfect. Awesome. All right. That is super helpful. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started in a training called Exceptional Design and Engaging Content. Give me a thumbs up, Ben Gray, if you can see my screen. Awesome. Love that. And I'll try to monitor the chat. If you guys have any questions throughout the training, you want me to slow down on something, even if you want me to role play a dialogue, you want to put me on the spot, don't hesitate to say, hey, can you elaborate on that? Because I'm happy to slow down if you need me to. This particular training, I'm really excited to give you guys because I am 100% sure if you play all in, that you will get something from this training, no matter where you are in your business journey, that you can implement today when you're communicating with your database. You're going to get some tools that you could get off this call and put in action pretty quickly. You can adopt all of the tools that I have in this training or just one or two, and it'll make an impact on your business. So this is the top 5 most engaging content elements and the strategies to create them. So essentially, the agenda we're going to go on is a brief intro on my story, and then just touch on a slide on, for those of you who haven't seen our core training, the 60 touch blueprint. We're going to just touch on that. And then we're going to go into how to develop content. So if you've seen our core 60 touch blueprint, you know that the key to a great referral business is touching in with people you already know, like, and trust consistently 4 or 5 times a month with valuable, not canned or generic content on a few different types of media, not just all email or all social media, but a few different types of media. And yet we have a business that an associate of mine runs who does the 60 touch program for a lot of agents and teams throughout US and Canada. And he does it for them. And we get a lot of questions when we do these trainings for people that are going to self-implement their touch program. And whether you self-implement or you work with John, who's on this call, to do this for you, a lot of the questions are like, okay, I get that we need to be in touch with our database with these different types of media. But what are the tools, or can you show me the framework as to how you come up with the content that you write? How do I structure the newsletter so that people engage with it and call me off of it? What does the content look like? So that's what this training is all about, is how we develop content. Last disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of conferences you go to and marketing gurus or marketing books that you've read. There are tons of marketing strategies you can use in social media and in different types of marketing. The ones we're going to discuss today are really specific to how we communicate with my real estate team's database. All that are useful for marketing, these are specific to communicating with a real estate agent's database. All right, so let's get into it. You guys may have seen this slide before. If you saw a core training, that's me maybe 20 years ago. This is just a little bit about my business journey. You can see the Sony camera, the drill and the hammer. That's when I put my own signs in. I took my own photos with the old school camera. And you can see here in the bullets 20 years ago when I started, I was prospecting based, went door to door for 2 years to 3 neighborhoods. That's how I got my business started. Always the solution for me was to work more hours, never to work smarter. Always just door to door, cold calling, prospecting, expired FISBOs. And I burn out. I had what most considered in my community a big, thriving business, but I burn out. And then fortunately, I stumbled upon how to build a database and work by referral. And it changed my whole life. And that's what we teach on is how to run that. So my business back then, when it looked like it was thriving, if you've never seen what a headache looks like, that is what a migraine headache looks like. I started getting them back in 2012. I was doing about 12 million in volume in my sales business. I was profit about $250,000. I was also running a brokerage that was doing 70 million with 35 agents, and I had a rental portfolio. In my sales business, here I was working about 60 hours a week. In the other businesses, probably another 30, so 90 hours total. But in the sales business, if you do the math, I was earning $83 an hour. So 60 hours a week times 52 weeks. And then there's my profit, 250,000 in that business. So $83 an hour in that business. And the business wasn't giving back to me or anybody in the community. So it was just a bit of a soul-sucking business that was giving me migraine headaches at the time. And again, solution was to work harder all the time, not smarter. As you turn the page to the last, I would say since 2022, that slide says 2023. So 2022 to 2024, last 3 years, that same business has been doing 90 to 100 million in volume. It's been profiting anywhere from 750 to $1 million in net profit each year. And I spend an hour and a half a month in that business. Somebody else runs the business, is the CEO of the business. They don't allow me to keep an office or a desk there. So I just meet with the person that runs that for an hour and a half a month. And it gets to give about 100,000 on average away every year to people in financial crisis in the community. And Ben mentioned, we talk about our database, how we just have a heart for having a for-profit business with a not-for-profit purpose, where we can contact our database and ask them, who do you know with a random urgent need who we can serve financially? And we're able to work with our database to serve their neighbors and their family members. And as we sell more houses and serve more families, we get to make more donations into that fund and partner with our database to serve their friends and family in the community. So it's a big part of that business. So a lot of people ask me, what's the biggest difference between the headache business and the freedom business? The biggest domino that fell before was about 5 big changes I made. The biggest one was learning how to do a touch program where I documented the people that know, like, and trust me and started communicating with them consistently in a variety of media 60 times a year with engaging content. And so if you've heard our core training, just touch on that really quickly. We talk about 4 major things as to why 60 touches work so well. And the first concept is because we have pre-built trust. If you work a cold lead, Zillow or Open House, it takes you 5 hours a human, 5 hours a person to build trust with them to where they will refer you. The thing we realize is that most of us already have some humans in our lives that we've spent 5 hours with over the last 10 or 20 years that already know, like, and trust us. And we don't need to start from hour 0 to earn their trust. We've already earned it. Our failure is to document their names and stay in touch with them consistently so that when they have life change, we're the first agent that comes to their mind. And that's what the 60 Touch program is all about. So when they have life change, we're the first agent that comes to mind. And when we do that with people that we've already spent 5 hours with and earn their trust, we save ourselves a lot of time and money that we would normally spend prospecting and going after cold leads. So we always say nothing wrong with all those other lead sources. Just get the lowest hanging fruit first and capitalize on your database, all those people you've spent that time with, before you move on to other lead sources in your business. And the math works. We always say that in our business, after you run this for a year or so, for every 10 contacts in your database, 1 will convert to a settlement. And it's the highest ROI of any lead source out of 21 in our business. And it amplifies the other lead sources. That's the core training on our 60 touch. We go really deep into those 4 points. And then we talk to you about how to build a touch program, feed it, and then communicate with it. And we show you the 5 touches a month in the different types of media. So for those of you who haven't heard our core training, that is the Cliff Notes version of it. Now we're going to talk to you about how to develop effective content to your 60 touch program. When you're communicating with your database, whether you do what we teach and you actually touch it with your database 5 times a month through air, land, and sea, through direct mail, email, events, items of values, NTCPA compliant calls and texts. We'll go over each of these in a minute. If you do this, or you just do one of these things, my hope for you is in the next few minutes, you're going to get some really good information about how to structure the content in each of these pieces. And we're going to give you a framework to do that. Jessica says the core training is located in the Revs library, leveraged lead generation. So to view that core training, just make a note right now and time block an hour later this week to go into the Revs library and grab that core training, because it'll complement this fairly well. Let's get into exactly how to develop content when you're communicating with your database. So there's 5 elements, you guys. Welcome to take a picture of this. If you want to do a screen capture, 5 different elements to focus on whenever you are developing content. So first is build trust, and we'll get into it. You're going to choose to either build trust or authority. Every piece of content, you're going to go after trust or authority, trust or authority, trust or authority. And so if you're doing a newsletter and then an email or a video email and then a social media post, you might do 2 trust messages with the goal of building trust, and then 2 focused on authority. All right, we'll show you how to do that in a minute. Then we'll talk about how the importance of staying top of mind, how to get them to take action, and then the actual structure of design. So 5 things we're going to talk about, 5 elements when you're building and designing content for your database. All right. So let's talk about building trust first. There's nothing that matters more than building trust with your database. If you have a 500-person database and you communicate with them effectively, you will eventually find over the course of 3 to 5 years, after running a significant touch program, that roughly 40 to 50% of your closings come from 20 to 30 people in that 500-person database. So it's that 80-20 principle. It's really interesting. If you're working a database properly, a huge majority will come from a few people. It doesn't mean the rest of the people aren't important, because you'll get another 50 or 60% spread across all of them together. But when you learn who starts to refer you at a deep level, just because of their position in the world, or they're just great networking people, they're gregarious, you can love on them and give them extra attention and keep teaching them how to refer you. So for my top 20 in my database, for most of my database, we have a system and it doesn't take any of my time. But when I was in production for my top 20, I would offer here's some tickets to the local theme park and a date night, and let me babysit your kids, because they would give me 10, 15, 20 referrals a year. And I would just capitalize on that and love on them. So whether your database is 12 or 7,000, just know that the primary goal is to maintain trust. When you made the list of people that know, like, and trust you, and you documented your database, they didn't begin to like you and trust you because for the past 10 years, you asked them for something. I want you guys to remember that. Write it down if you have to. A lot of cold calling or at conferences, you might hear how important it is to ask for the referral. I've been to a lot of trainings that teach me how to ask for the referral, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just think about a real relationship of like people that trust you and like you and know you. Did you get into that relationship where they like you and trust you because every month you call and ask them for something? Or do they like you and trust you because every month or so you help them with something and you gave them something, you were kind to them and you offered them value? If we can remember to give twice as much value as the thing that we're asking for, we will always maintain that trust contract with our database. So one of the principles of the database when we're building trust is to create content that really continues to crystallize and cement that trust. So let me take you through our framework for that. So it says here, trust is the foundation of lasting relationships built by consistently delivering value and fostering long-term success. So I'm going to talk about a couple concepts here. We're either going to, when we're doing a trust message in one of our videos or one of our text emails or one of our newsletters, and we're doing a trust message, we're going to choose to do a personal trust message or a social proof trust message, one or the other. The message is a trust message, and I'm going to rotate them. I'm going to be like, this one's a personal one. Next month, we'll do a social proof one. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, if we're going to pick personal, we're going to go, what's a problem that I've had in my life personally? All right, I got a problem. And I'd like you to go through this exercise here. I actually have it bulleted out. So what's a problem or a challenge that you faced? I want you to write that down. And then what was the solution to that problem? How did I overcome it? How did I overcome the challenge? I want you to write that down. So for me, a problem was that I had a fear of public speaking when I met Lars in 2014. And he asked me to speak on a stage in front of a huge conference in Charlotte. And I reluctantly agreed. And then I had a panic attack. And that was a big problem. Leading up to speaking, I actually had this huge bodily anxiety I'd never experienced before. I went to therapy and found a specialist that gives therapy around fear of public speaking. I overcame the problem by public speaking at a Rebs conference that Lars invited me to and teaching people how to build a database that gave to their community through a nonprofit. And I went to therapy to get me through that. And I prayed about it, and it took months. And then I kept doing it. And now I love to speak. And so that's a problem or a challenge that I faced personally and professionally. And that's how I overcame it. And the lesson that I learned is that sometimes the things you fear most, two steps that I could take is get into community and confess my fear, and then face my fear and walk through the fire. And so when I'm talking about a personal message, I'm simply naming the challenge or the problem, how I overcame it, what the solution is, and what lesson that I learned. By the way, those are the three elements of a good story. If any of you have taken Don Miller's story brand marketing, you're going to learn that great marketers that do engaging content know how to tell story. They're going to start with a problem, they're going to show the solution, and they're going to explain the lesson that they overcame. So they're going to navigate somebody right through the story. So building trust, here's my challenge, here's the solution, here's the lesson learned, and I'm going to tell it in 2,000 characters to my database. The next one is, what is a problem that is social proof? So here we would just ask, what's a problem a buyer or a seller or a client experienced, how they overcome, what the solution was, and what lesson they learned. Running a full marathon, hired a trainer to train for it. I love it, Allison. It's exactly right. And so here's the thing when we're building trust is that appraisal came back 10,000 down. Love that one. That's a social proof one. We could talk about a client story with that one. Anytime we say a problem and a solution, people, that's vulnerability. So now we're getting into Brene Brown stuff. Immediately people can relate to that. And it breeds trust. Offer 5K for furniture. I love it. So the problem can be super vulnerable. It could be some experience you have professionally. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that there's a problem and then you've navigated through a solution. All right. So let's give you some examples of how to do this. In most of our content, roughly every other one, you're going to see focus on trust building, gaining confidence as a realtor after 20 years of being an expert in something else, replacing negative self-talk with positivity, focusing on the value and service I bring. I love it. Thanks, Caroline. All right, so here's just some examples. Now, this one's in a social post format. If you're doing a 60 touch, part of that is taking your content that you're writing in a newsletter and an email to your database and throwing that on social media. So this particular one, I wrote in a newsletter and then we adapted it to a social media post. I've decided to become comfortable with being a little uncomfortable. Most people don't know what led me to real estate. It's not a pretty story. It was during my junior year in college. I was already on probation for various citations, including alcohol and substance abuse. I made some really bad choices. And then it goes through a story about the biggest turning point in my life being my faith in God and a number of things that happened that led me to real estate. And the lesson that I learned was that my faith is super important to me. And that's a picture of me in college, like literally in a really bad spot. When I wrote that newsletter, so many people reached out to me to let me know that I'd met before. And they're like, I never knew that story. I never knew. And my son's going through that right now, or so-and-so is going through that. And I never knew that about you. So immediately we were able to relate on that topic. Here's social proof. Help us celebrate Ria and Sagar. So it explains that their lives were changed when a new job opportunity came in. And then it goes about couple little problems and then how they navigated it. And then that they found their dream home. And so when you're using social proof, you're making the client the hero. You're not the hero. Too often we're like, in all of our marketing, we're like, I'm number one, right? That's an old school, marketing theory. We want to focus on the client and the public as the hero, and we're the guide. And they have a problem, and we help them, guide them to a solution. And then here's the lesson that we learned. And every good story has those components, and we're generally the guide. And we're talking about somebody else, and they're the hero. So a couple components. Always start with a problem and decide if you're going to tell a little bit of story about yourself or about somebody else. Both of them are going to help build trust. Here you can see this one, my fear of public speaking. Here's that actual newsletter that I talked about. So that's pretty cool. All right. Elliot and Art, thanks for your share there as well. So if there's no other questions, if we're going for building trust, we're going personal or social proof, and then we have those story elements. And just know that if you're going to write any content, take a screen capture of this. Just ask these questions before you write content. What challenges did I face? How to overcome? What lessons I learned? I can think of like 10 right now that I could write. And then think about 10 buyer sellers, challenges they face, lesson they learned, and just write a couple paragraphs about it. And then ask their permission to share it. And then that can be really good trust building content for your database. Authority. So if we build trust, that's important, but then we also want to build authority. Authority breeds credibility with our database. We're the economists of choice for our database. We're that source of the source when they have questions or when they have a problem that is in our real estate industry. We are the source of authority and credibility to guide them to the solution. So we've already shown them that we have problems and we help other people solve problems. And now the other type of content we want to do is build that authority with them. And the way to do that is through educational-based marketing. If we're not doing a trust building piece, we're doing an educational based marketing piece with the purpose of building authority and credibility. So the way to do that is we're going to ask a question and then we're going to answer it. And we're going to use a framework that I actually learned in B school at a conference that I've used now for 6 years called Hilda. I'm going to break that framework down for you. Very simple here. Here's a way to get 30 pieces of content very quickly Just go to AI or go to Google and ask it, what are the most searched real estate questions in my community? What are the most searched real estate questions in South Central PA or in Pennsylvania or in Ohio, whatever market you're in? What are the questions on the minds of real estate home buyers? What questions do real estate sellers have? Start writing down the search results. And these are just going to allow you to do sort of a brain dump on all the questions people ask you and they have in mind, but it's just hard to get the energy flowing. So you get a lot of content ideas. Once you ask the question, here's the mindset I want you guys to be in. Ben, if I'm talking to Ben, and Ben Gray is a client of mine, and he's a seller, Ben asks the question, hey, Dave, how long does it take a home to sell in South Central PA? He's thinking about selling his home. He sees me at a party. He's like, oh, we're thinking about selling in the next year or so. About how long does it take in our market? I'm not going to nobody on this call is going to go and be like, you know what, Ben, let me research that a bit. We're not going to prep for it. We're just going to be like, yeah, Ben, that's a great question. Had a couple clients recently. Average days on market seems to be about 2 weeks. If you price it on the high side, it might be a week or two longer than that. If you price it more competitively, you might get multiple offers in the first couple of days. And so there's a whole marketing set of tools called educational-based marketing. They ask, you answer. So all we're doing to build authority is we are asking the top 10 or 20 questions on a buyer or seller's mind in this season, in this economy, top 10 or 20 problems they have. And then we're answering it, the answer. Let me give you an idea of how this works. So again, we're going after authority. We're using educational-based marketing. We ask a question, then we answer it. And we use this framework when we answer, particularly on video. Over here, you can see it. There's a hook. There's an introduction of the speaker or who I am. We're going to lead into the question. We're going to deliver the goods. And then we're going to ask them to do something next. Every time we do a video, every time we do a piece of marketing, we're going to go down through that framework. So here you can see a video. If we asked Google some questions on home buyers right now are asking what do I do first? And the market's really unstable. It's volatile. What's my first step? So the best place to start when buying in today's unstable market. So in that video, I might say, what's the best place to start when buying a home in today's unstable market? That's the hook. Hey, this is Dave Hooke with Dave Hooke Real Estate Team. That's my intro. And I want to answer that question because interest rates have been really high for really long. And a lot of buyers are wondering what their first step is and if they should even buy a home in this market. So that's my lead in. So I'm getting them interested. I'm explaining the pain and the emotion. And then I answer the question. The first step for a lot of people, they think, is to look at homes. But I would actually hit pause on that and back up. Many of you don't know that real estate agents do free consultations. In fact, our team does 6 or 7 free home buyer consultations every single week. And for a lot of us, the first step is to get peace of mind in our finances, to understand what our monthly payment is and see if we have peace about affordability in this market. Another thing a lot of home buyers don't recognize is that if you own a home, you have more equity than you could have imagined. And we want to get clarity on that. So a free home buyer consultation can help get clarity on your equity. Or if you're renting, we can help you get clarity on how much you're giving away to a landlord every year and how that compares to getting into home ownership right now. Go ahead and hit the link below to schedule your free home buyer 30-minute consultation. There's no obligation or pressure or anything. We just want to give you information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon. So that's framework on how to build authority. If you have any questions on that, throw them in the chat. Next ones are pretty simple. So if every other message is building trust or building authority, when we're doing a touch program, we want to stay top of mind. So we don't want to do inconsistent touches with trust and authority. We want to do 4 to 5 touches every month if we can. And we want to do it in 5 different media types. The reason we do 5 media types with trust and authority is because if we only do email, we'll eventually, after years of email, see that we have a high unsubscribe rate and there's a lot of gray mail. And so there's a churn with email. So the email's free, it's okay, and it can be engaging. We can see open and click reports, but we want to add to email with direct mail, another media type, as well as client events, where we're going to have a reason to call them and text them and get belly to belly and voice to voice with them, as well as items of value, which are bulkier messages that we're sending them. We're going to do that consistently to build impressions. And that's how we're going to get 1 in every 10 people in our database to eventually convert to a closing for us. Right? So we talked about the type of messaging being trust or authority and a framework to come up with both. We talked about making sure it's consistent multiple times a month with trust or authority. Here's examples of those different media types. So we have email. We have 3 different types of email. We have a listings email where people can engage with the listings and click on them and we can capture their information. We have educational-based marketing. I asked the question, then I answered it using Hilda, and then asked them to take the next steps here. And then we have an all-text email, also with a free downloadable guide and a couple calls to action asking them to take next steps. So 3 different types of email. 2 different types of direct mail, a postcard with a handwritten note on it that's laser printed on all of them, and then a newsletter. 4 different types of events, and then 4 different types of items of value. And obviously, you can take any of the information on here and then put that out on your social media as well. You can duplicate that and cut that content up. All right. So the next piece of content that we're going to talk about briefly is how to have them take action on your marketing piece. So we talked about trust or authority messages, consistency with the touches, and then on every piece of content, one of the biggest failures I see agents and teams do is they do great content, they put all this work into it, and then they don't tell the consumer what to do next. And so we want to get really good at that. We actually do have a whole nother training we're going to do for you guys on all of our unique selling propositions that you can use in your individual markets that will get people to take action. And we have 12 different unique selling propositions all done up for you that you can have as our gift to you when we do that training. But just for now, know that in any piece of marketing, we want to make sure to tell them what to do next. This was a piece of marketing that had authority content. And then on that marketing, it says, scan below to search all available homes, and then our contact information. This is a handwritten postcard on the other side. Then on the front of it, saying a secret, he always checks the market before coming to town. And you can too, just scan below to search all available homes in your area. This is a newsletter with a personal note and authority on it. Down here, you can see, if you're interested in a free home valuation, call us today. Here you can see a unique selling proposition, our easy exit guarantee, and explains some things about it. And then if this describes you, the Dave Hooke team's easy exit guarantee may be for you. Our guaranteed cash offer may be for you. Call here. No showings, no lenders, no inspections, no cost of repairs. Right? So unique selling propositions, our guaranteed cash offer, easy exit guarantee, free home valuation, and then calls to action is just cleared. Call now, email here, scan here. Okay. Anytime we do a message, we want to make sure we tell them what to do next. You should not have a marketing message without at least a call to action. Last piece of our 5 is design, where creativity meets strategy. So we talked about the strategies. The company that does our done for you 60 touch program for our real estate team, a leader that has a design background, graphic design degree. And just real simply, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but 6 things that you want to keep in mind are on all of your pieces that are consistent. So your name, this might seem dumbed down, but you'd be surprised. We see marketing messages where the agent's name just isn't clear, or they're using variations of their name on different marketing messages. Not helpful. So name is going to be consistent in font, consistently placed. The face, if you have a spokesperson or your face is part of the image, just make sure it's consistent. Don't change up the pictures too often. Make sure it's a consistent image that you're using. The brand identity. So this is where the name and the face and the logo come together, and we're being consistent with our font sizes Our color coding are consistent, and the whole image comes together fairly consistently. Um, Direction. So this is where our calls to action and unique selling propositions are always very consistent across every piece of our marketing. This is unique to everything we do. For my team, who runs a database touch program, and now more and more of the people that are working with my associate who does this in the US and Canada, they are inviting vendors on all of their database marketing, and they're having the vendors pay them for that ad space, so they can even use this as a moneymaker for them, or at least zero cost it, so they don't have any expense related to communicating with their database. So we have vendor space in all of our stuff, and then make sure your contact info is obviously clear. So again, some of that may seem simple to you, but when we look at marketing pieces, all too often we see like the names, different variation. They don't have a call to action or giving direction. They have varying images, and they don't have any contact information. So you can see some examples of that. So it's always my face is the image. It's this actual picture is the same picture on all of my signs in my community. And this is the picture you're going to see on probably about 70 to 80% of our stuff. And in our videos, you're going to see it's still me. It's obviously can't use the same image in live videos. The name is Dave Hooke. It's not David Hooke. It's always Dave Hooke, Dave Hooke Team. The brand is always this logo up here, and it's always associated with my image. The direction is, it's the same 2160862 is our postcards and newsletters. So you can have that contact information there, support@davehooketeam.com. And you're going to always see, watch my video, call now, scan here. So consistent direction in all of our pieces. Vendor space, it's hard for us to get that in slide here, but on all of our materials, you can see like, here's the back of one of our newsletters. We have consistent vendor space. So our database is very used to seeing our vendors on all of our marketing material. And then we talked about contact info. All right, so to summarize, we're talking about our core training. We went over our 60 touch blueprint, which is another training, and Jessica told you where to find that. And that's going to go into the nuts and bolts of how to run a 60 touch program. Today's training was about the 5 elements of how to do content in your touches. We talked about choosing to build trust or authority, and going back and forth on each piece should either be a trust piece or an authority piece. And if you do trust, use story, and it can be personal or social proof. And just use that. What's the problem? What's the solution? And I'm going to tell a story about that. To build authority, you're going to use the educational, and this is story brand marketing. Donald Miller's stuff, story brand marketing. You can read his book. That's a trust builder. To build authority, you're going to use educational based marketing, the they ask you answer framework. Ask a question to Google, then just answer it in all text or in video, and use that HILDA framework: hook, intro, lead in, deliver, and ask. You're going to do this on a variety of media. You're going to do these 2 things on 5 different media types consistently throughout the month to the same group of people. Everything you do is going to have a call to action. We're going to do a different training to show you all the unique selling propositions you can do to get people to take action, but make sure you always have a call to action. And then make sure your design on your pieces is with some level of consistency, keeping these 6 things in mind. So they're not too much variation, and you have that consistent name, image, contact info, etc. Always want to leave you with a gift. John will put this in the chat for you. If you want to self-implement, every time we do one of these trainings, there's a group of people who are like, how can I get the company that does your 60 touch marketing and does all this design stuff that you just taught us? How can I hire them to do it for me so I don't have to think about it and they'll just do it perfectly? I'll show you how to do a consultation with them if you want to. But for those of you who just want to take a step yourself and self-implement, John just put a link for you in there. And this is a document I typed myself, and it has a summary of the philosophy of why database marketing works for agents. It has the 3 steps to build it, feed it, and communicate with it. And then it explains exactly how to build your database with some action items down here. how to feed it monthly, an action item here, and how to communicate with it at zero cost if you just want to self-implement it. So for our agents on our team, when they start in their first year, a lot of them are adopting this strategy to build their first database. And it goes through exactly how to come up with the content to touch in with your database if you're self-implementing, and has the action items down here for you. Has all of our dialogues in here, what we say to our database when we call them. And then it has how we segment our databases. And then it has a exercise for you to build your database if you're struggling with that. So that's our gift to you guys. Hopefully that's helpful. For those of you, there will be some people on this call. You can go here, or John will put rootedbc.com, rootedbusinessconsultingbc.com. John and his team, I keep mentioning him. They have clients all throughout US and Canada that they do their 60 touch marketing for them. I think it's around $597 a month, but they've launched a new program recently where they're now zero costing it. So the clients are starting not to pay for it because John and his team are helping them contact vendors in their community. And John's doing the work of then, once the vendors sign up, he'll put the logo and their contact information on your marketing to your database. And then those vendors will pay you a monthly fee, which will completely zero cost the fee for John's team to do this for you. So he's trying to make it a complete no-brainer for people. Why wouldn't you do something that doesn't have zero cost? Even if you're just starting out, getting touches to your database and zero costing the whole thing, John will show you how to do that to get started. And then from there, over your first year or two, you can start when you feel comfortable building in the direct mail and the client events at your own pace. So if you want to learn more about that, go to rootedbc.com or schedule a strategy session with John there. Last but not least, we love your feedback on all these trainings. We just hope you get a ton of value. But for everybody, we just hope you learned something today that will make your business a little bit better, make you love on your database a little bit more, and get you one step closer to business freedom. So feel free to give us some feedback there. We'd love for you to take that step so we can make these trainings a little bit better. Ben, that's all I got for today.
Dave's going to be with us again coming up next month. So look out for that. Dave, as always, thank you for what you do for our community. John, thank you for what you do for our community as well. You guys are both very valued.